the student voice for Mizzou Athletics. My name is Keegan Hartman. As always, it is so great to be back on the airwaves. And man, I'm going to say this, Brandon. You did a heck of a job last week taking over. And I know that I did not. I was not present, but I listened, and you did a phenomenal job. You and your Uncle Greg, you killed it. You did a great job with the analysis that you put on, man. I missed it. I'm glad to be back. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's good to have you back, honestly. It's different doing a solo show for sure.
I know
I was able to have my uncle on to kind of give another person to talk to, but hey, you're back, so let's go run it this week.
We're back in action. It's great to be back. It's great to get the chemistry back, and we've got a lot to get to. So let me just give you a brief outline of what we're going to be going through today, and then we're going to get right into Brandon. I know we got a fresh brew to get to in a minute, but we got Week 11 to break down. And actually, Brandon, you got a special guest that's going to be joining us, as your dad, Scott Anthony, is right here on the Zoom call with us. He's going to be joining in just a moment. We're going to be talking Week 11, previewing that. Then we're going to get into the NBA draft. We'll recap the Minnesota Timberwolves. Man, it is the Anthony talk today, as the Minnesota Timberwolves had the number one pick on Wednesday. We'll talk about your Timberwolves, Brandon. And then also today at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Central Time, is the official start to the 2020 NBA free agency period. We got a lot to get into. Gordon Hayward opting out of his contract. I'm going to shut up. That's a part of the Fresh Brew. Brandon, you got a Fresh Brew for us. Take it right away. Kick us off, man.
Yep, so today's Fresh Brew, we're going to start as yesterday, as ESPN NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski reported that X-ray results confirmed Golden State Warriors guard Klay Thompson tore his Achilles while playing a pickup basketball game on Wednesday night. Now, as you may know, it's been since Game 6 of the 2019 NBA Finals since we last saw Thompson take the court for the Warriors. In that Game 6, Thompson, of course, tore his ACL and has previously missed all of last season for Golden State. And it's worth noting that following his performance in the 2018-2019 season, which was arguably Thompson's most productive season statistically with the Warriors, he averaged nearly 21 points per game in the 2019 season. And so going in summer 2019, Golden State and Thompson had agreed to a 5-year, $190 million extension with the Warriors that July. So he's obviously makes up one of the best backcourts in the NBA. He'll miss his second consecutive season. So a big knock on the Golden State Warriors without him, as they finished their 2019-2020 season with a record of 15-50, missing the postseason this past season for the first time since 2012.
And it should be worth noting, Brandon, that along with that horrendous 2019 to 2020 campaign this past season for the Golden State Warriors, they earned themselves a lottery pick, obviously, in the NBA draft lottery, which just went down on Wednesday, as we previously alluded to. Actually, beholding the second overall pick in Wednesday's draft. That is, in fact, the first time in 8 years that the Golden State Warriors have actually had a draft lottery pick. So, what was the Warriors' last lottery draft pick selection, you ask? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've got the answer. That last pick was North Carolina forward Harrison Barnes, who was selected by the Warriors with the 7th overall pick in the 2012 NBA draft. And so on Wednesday, with that second overall draft lottery pick, the Warriors played the game wisely by selecting Memphis Tigers big man James Wiseman. God, that's so cheesy, but Brandon, I did it for you. Do you love it?
I love it.
Cheesy enough, it'll get by. I like it. All right. Wiseman was a 7'1", 235-pound big man center who hones from Nashville, Tennessee, and sounds to me like he's going to be a Kevin Durant replacement, something that they desperately need for Golden State. But if you do recall, Wiseman was the same guy from Memphis who actually only played 3 games while with the Memphis Tigers as a freshman. Keep in mind, he averaged 19.7 games across those three games, I should say. And then his NCAA career ultimately came to an end as he forgoed the rest of his freshman season because word got out that there were allegations surrounding a recruitment compensation scandal. However, Wiseman's a baller, so we'll see how that pans out. But, Brandon, more news to talk about, man?
Yeah, so like you were talking about, NBA free agency is set to officially begin tonight at 6 p.m. Of course, we'll be keeping tabs on all the news as we usually do.
Mhm.
It's like a holiday with NBA free agency, kind of like
Christmas.
NFL free agency.
Love it.
But that's just ultimately the transition into our NFL segment. And man, we had a game last night for the NFC West. It was a big game for first place,
Yeah.
and we're gonna run through that.
Yeah, got a lot of news to get to, guys. And I will say this NFL game, and I'm not even, we had that a part of the Fresh Brew. We're going to talk about some free agents later on. We'll get into the NBA free agency as I'm seeing it come across the ticker here. There's going to be news breaking as we get throughout this broadcast, but we're just going to dive right into it. First and foremost, Brandon, like I alluded to earlier in the show, you have a special guest sitting with you and a long time he's family of the show, Mr. Scott Anthony. Scott, how are you doing today, my friend?
Great, Keegan. Glad to join you guys. Been wanting to do it for a while, so here we go. And I couldn't let my younger brother upstage me from last week's show, so I had to join today in person.
Some sibling rivalry. I love it. I love it. So, Scott, we're gonna be breaking this down. So we're gonna get into some game picks. I know that Brandon's got some games that he wants to talk about. We'll be breaking that down in a moment. Preview Week 11. But I think it's only appropriate, Brandon, that we step on your toes to start the broadcast off. Man, your San Francisco 49ers could have been a part of it all. We all envisioned the San Francisco 49ers, ladies and gentlemen, to be the talk of the West this year. Like, oh, they're going to be back. They're going to be great. They're going to be better than ever. They're going to get back to the top. That's not been the case. They've dealt with injury after injury, and the irony of it all, last night, shaped up what could possibly be, it was an entertaining Thursday night football game, first and foremost. But the NFC West, as we've so previously talked about before in this show, they proved why they are the best division in the NFL. Brandon, what do you think about this division that is taking shape around you, this NFC West? First and foremost, before we break down the game, what do you think about it?
Well, I think it was a good game. I think both Seattle and Arizona both have been having good seasons. It's for Arizona specifically. Last season, their first season with Kyler Murray, was drafted year before, number 1 overall. So they were kind of getting their toes wet with him, and now this season they kind of got it figured out with Kyler Murray. 2 great coaches. I think that's part of the reason why the NFC West is so competitive, because you got 4 great offensive minds coaching young offensive minds, despite Pete Carroll. Not as young, but
grandpa.
But yeah, so you got the coaches. I think is a big. You got Cliff Kingsbury, you got Shanahan, you got Sean McVay, all young offensive minds. You got Pete Carroll, who's been doing it for a while. Mm-hmm. A lot of that can play in the factor of why NFC West is so competitive. And in terms of the game last night, I think both Seattle and Arizona are going to be teams that will, whoever wins the division will have at least 2, maybe 3 teams as a wild card come playoff time.
So before I swing it over to you, Scott, and get your insight, I'm just going to break down the stats. So if you didn't know the final score from Thursday night's game, last night it was a thriller in Seattle. Ultimately, Seattle got their redemption, came out on top. Russ found his recipe and started cooking some Cardinal casserole. That is so many C's in one sentence. Russ came out last night, 23 for 28 passing, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns. As for the young gun and arguably an NFL MVP consideration, Mr. Kyler Murray, he threw 29 for 42 passing, 269 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Now, Scott, I'm going to ask you this, man. If the playoff landscape were to just somehow, start today, the NFC playoff picture would look like this. I'm not even going to look off the first, second, third, and fourth. Well, I'm going to look at the fourth. So this is how it shapes up. Fourth seed, you've got the Seattle Seahawks. Fifth seed, you've got the LA Rams. Sixth seed, you've got the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Scott, I'm going to ask you this. Do you think come January, this is the same conversation, and ultimately the NFC conference as a whole goes through the most competitive division in the NFL, arguably? Do you think that they go through the NFC West to stamp their ticket to go to Tampa Bay?
Yeah, for sure, Keegan. I mean, you see what happened last year because it went through Northern California,
Mm-hmm.
and with the Niners. And you referenced it earlier. They've had a rough go of it with all the injuries. Otherwise, they'd probably be right there in the mix as well. But yeah, most certainly, I think it's definitely the most competitive overall division. It's the toughest division to be in and play in. I think last night's game, is a credit to Russell Wilson because he had lost his mojo. I think they had lost 3 games in a row, right, or something like that. And so he hadn't played very well, and he was trying to take it all on his own shoulders, and he let the game come to him a little bit last night and played well. Quite frankly, I choose a different horse in that race. I wish the Cardinals would have stuck it to him a little bit last night, but that didn't happen. So you have to give credit to where credit is due. And Seattle, is going to be right there in the end. So I think between the Rams, Seattle, and the Cardinals, it's a tough out for any one of those games if your team plays them.
Do you think the Seahawks sitting at the 4th seed right now, is there still an opportunity for them? Because if you look at their schedule, I think I've got it pulled up on my notes here. Going down to their schedule, let's take a look. They've got the easiest remaining schedule of all teams in the NFL. And it's not even, you could look on paper and say that, but it's an actual fact. At Philadelphia next week, then they face the Giants, then the Jets, all at home, at Washington, then they face the Rams at home, and then they round out their season playing San Francisco. Is there a chance we could see the Seahawks taking the number 1 spot and the home field advantage when it's all said and done? Maybe even obviously the bye week.
Yeah, I think so, and it's a good thing COVID's here because whoever goes in there didn't have to face the 12th man because that's definitely an advantage when it's there. But look, let's not forget about the Packers. Mm-hmm. But the Packers had to go to actually Brandon and I were at that game, the NFC Championship game last year, and if you got to go win on the road to get to the Super Bowl, it makes it doubly difficult. So, but yeah, I think that might be the call if their schedule is that easy. I hadn't looked at it, but if their schedule is that easy, I think they got their mojo back. It's going to be tough out.
Brandon, I hate swinging this question to you because I know it hurts you. You look at these guys, and on these notes here, I've got the Cardinals lined out. I've got the Rams schedule. I've got the Seahawks schedule. Man, do you think when it's all said and done, from the outside looking in, you see all 3 of your division opponents making the playoffs? You think it's possible, do you think it's possible that all these guys, all these teams, I should say, will be maintaining a spot in the playoff come January?
Well, yeah, I think it's possible, but I also think it's possible that our season isn't quite over yet either. There's a lot of football left to be played. 4-6, yes, that's not where we want to be at this position, but we're at a bye week this week. You get players healthy. Anything can happen late down the stretch. So I think you necessarily don't want to count San Francisco out yet. Now, if they come out after the bye and they lose to the Rams, then season's probably over at that point. But definitely we can see three teams from the NFC West make the playoffs with the wild card, and it should be fun to see what happens with that. But yeah, I don't think I don't think San Francisco's done quite yet, but of course we'll find out.
That's what I love about my son, Keegan, the eternal optimist. Look at that.
Hey, man, we all have to have a little bit of him and I have been riding on optimism the entire season for both of our teams because that is the only thing we can live on. You look at the losing column first and you think, well, worst case scenario, we can go 10-6 or, 9-7. You have to have that optimism and it just, man. If the San Francisco 49ers were in the NFC East, Brandon, I love your optimism, and I'm taking it to the bank. But you have to keep in mind, man, you are in the most competitive, group of teams, the most competitive division. And needless, I mean, yeah, there's always a chance. I mean, you're talking to a Broncos fan here. I'm living on optimism right now throughout the remaining season, even though I know that there's probably no chance we make the playoffs. But I don't know, man. I don't see how these guys can make the comeback and be able to get back into this conversation for the playoffs. I think they're 4 spots out from that 7th spot, and obviously the playoffs have been expanded this year. But even so, I just don't see how San Francisco can do it with the likings of Nick Mullins. And then Garoppolo's out for what, 4 to 6 weeks, and then George Kittle. He's out for 8 weeks, I want to say 6 to 8 weeks. That's just long time windows for key players, man.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We do have the I think the toughest remaining schedule left.
Yeah,
in the NFL, which is what we're up against too also. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully we take the bye week well and come out and if we can win a couple games and get on a hot streak, there's a chance. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's going to be an uphill battle, but we'll see where it goes.
I mean, what's your impression going into the off season right now? Is there optimism? Are you nervous? Do you think it's a downhill here, or do you think there's an uphill to be had?
I'm really optimistic going into the off season. I mean, we've hit the injury bug pretty bad this year, but that's not going to happen every year.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly curious to see where the management goes with certain position groups, such as quarterback, for example, such as offensive line and cornerback. I think those are the 3 biggest positions to take a look at in the offseason. So I'm optimistic about the rest of the season doesn't go our way. I think we have enough players coming back to be competitive again next year. So
I'm going to say this, prayers to the San Francisco 49ers fan base, because I feel like it just gets more competitive. And I think as you progress throughout the years, you guys need to, here's the thing, and I'm going to say this, we'll put a pin in it and we'll come back to it on a rainy day. I think in order to compete in the NFC West, you have to have a quarterback. And look, Jimmy Garoppolo, he did what he had to do. I mean, the system built around him allowed him to play good last year. I don't know what it is, but Kyle Shanahan's run game really alleviated the pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo's shoulders. So I don't know what it was that happened this season with Jimmy G, but he kind of fell back into that same norm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's key back from last year. Mostert, he's still out too.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
That is part of it. But, yeah, I mean, the quarterback position's interesting, too, because Jimmy had a great season last year. But to be honest, I'm not really sure Shanahan on the other side really it's kind of come clear this season with his ankle and everything that he's been prone to protect him a lot more, especially in that Rams game, Patriots game when he was playing. Mm-hmm. You saw him kind of, have Jimmy throw screen passes constantly. I don't think Shanahan really trusts his ability, sees limitations. So it should be I'm not sure if he's the guy Shanahan wants going forward. And if he thinks that, he did come out and say he expects him to be the starter in 2021. Mm-hmm. We'll see. I mean, he can't exactly go in front of the media and say, no, we're going to dump Jimmy. So we'll see where he goes with that. But I think if we want to have a chance in the NFC West, most competitive division, quarterback is necessity. And Garoppolo right now, I think he's a good quarterback, but he's kind of in the average type of window at this point. Mm-hmm. And I think that can sort of hold us back in the future with all the pieces together. So,
well, we'll put a pin in that conversation and just say best of luck to the NFC West. We got a quick headline before we get into the Week 11 picks. We'll be making our picks. I know Brandon's got a couple of games for Scott and I, and even him, to pick. But real quick, just a note, guys. Taysom Hill, it was announced probably minutes ago that he will be getting the start against the Atlanta Falcons, the good old quarterback / wide receiver / tight end / running back / whatever you want to name him. He can play anything. He's versatile. He's Army Swiss knife. He's going to be getting the start at the quarterback position. Obviously, Drew Brees is out with a collapsed lung thanks to the San Francisco 49ers defense last Sunday. Prayers to Drew Brees. It's a horrendous injury, and I think he had some ribs too that he broke. But he's out for 2 weeks, I want to say, is the timetable for him. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon. But is that right?
I have to look at
Drew Brees, yeah, he's out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure for how long. But.
Oh, no, you're good. I'm going to assume it was a couple weeks, but I could be wrong.
I think he's out for even more than that.
I think it might be a little bit longer than 2 weeks.
Oh, goodness. Man, oh, man, we might be getting some different results here. Yeah, I'll let you answer that one. But Taysom Hill getting the start, I will swing it once we get the answer on how many weeks he's out. I'm going to ask you, Scott. Oh, there we go. Scott, I will ask you, what do you think about Taysom Hill taking that starting role over? Do you think we'll see Jameis Winston, a little bit of Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill this time around against the Falcons, Week 11?
Yeah, I think so. I think, Hill's an incredible, as you said, utility player. I mean, he's, he comes in and plays multiple positions. Mm-hmm. You may see them kind of do that and switch it up a little bit, like they did when Brees was there, and because he's such a tough guy to have to deal with when you move him around on the field, to receiver to quarterback, to let him run the option and such. So yeah, I think you might see them shift Winston in there, for some plays. But it's interesting that they have him play the lead quarterback role. We'll see how he does, if he can maintain that just, from that position alone. So I would think, they have a tendency to do that anyway. So I think you will see a little bit of both.
With the significance of Drew Brees' injury, do you think that they could find a permanent solution, maybe a long-term solution within these two quarterbacks? I mean, it is one game against the Falcons, but, you're going to have to give it these next few weeks. Given what Drew Brees' timetable is, if he was eligible to return this season, say one of these guys were to go off, do you just roll with them if you get a postseason opportunity, or depending on what Drew Brees looks like, you maybe give him his second shot at coming back in and competing in the postseason? What do you do if you're Sean Payton?
Well, I think can they maintain and win? I'm not sure who they got in the upcoming schedule after Atlanta, but yeah, I think they can with those two guys, mm-hmm. and a combination of the two. I mean, it's not the first time Drew Brees has been out for an extended period of time, and they seem to do just fine. Now, different season, different time, but I think they're well coached. I think they got some players around them offensively that still can make some things happen. The defense is pretty good. So, yeah, and then when Brees comes back, I think Drew Brees was one of the best quarterbacks statistically. Mm-hmm. Of all time. So I think you need to lean into him come playoff time if he makes it back. He's healthy. He's got to be healthy, because I think that's what the situation in San Francisco is Jimmy G. They might have brought him back too early, and he clearly wasn't the same player, and had a couple of picks, I think, and was making some bad choices, and clearly you could see he was struggling with his ankle. It's just the same thing. You got to make sure that Brees is healthy, bring him back, give your team the best chance to win.
100%. Brandon, what do you think? You think you roll with a guy like Taysom, maybe Jameis Winston, 30 for 30? What do you think?
I really like Taysom Hill, what he can bring to the Saints offense. in terms of his versatility, mobility. We were talking before the show. We were like, it kind of seems like Taysom's going to just be running that offense solo. He's going to be running the ball. He's going to be doing everything for the Saints, kind of like how he already does with Drew Brees there. My biggest question for me, though, is Jameis Winston. He had 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions a year ago with the Buccaneers, and then the Buccaneers, I think, cut him and the Saints picked him up to be a backup behind Brees. I'm really curious to see how he can play. He's with the Saints now. He's with Sean Payton. He's with a good coach. I think the Saints can potentially coach him up to where he can be effective and sort of revitalize his career in terms of a backup. I think that 30 interception season is probably an anomaly, but I want to see how he does too, because there's a lot of questions surrounding him in terms of his decision making and other stuff on the field. But I like both of those guys going forward. I think both of them, to what my dad said, will be able to win the Saints games while Drew Brees is out.
For sure, gentlemen. Well, that leaves us with roughly about 5-6 minutes to make some game pick selections as we head into week 11. Man, can you believe it? My goodness. It just seems like yesterday we had week 1. I feel like I say that every week, but man, oh man.
Strange season, though.
Oh, yeah. This has definitely been a season of uncertainty and flexibility, as Brandon and I always allude to on this one. It's definitely not going to be forgotten. It's always going to be remembered as a strange season, 100%, Scott. Brandon, with that being said, man, we're in week 11. You got some picks. You got some games. Hit us with them.
The first game I saw is the Packers traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. It's a pretty big one for both teams. Let's just start. I'll start, I guess.
Yeah.
The Packers, they're coming off. I can't remember the last team they played.
Jaguars, and they struggled.
They struggled against the Jaguars. That is true. It'll be a big test for them if they're struggling against the Jaguars. They're going to Indianapolis, playing up against that defense, and the Indianapolis offense is my only concern. This could be a season where this could be a game where Aaron Rodgers kind of goes toe for toe against the Indianapolis defense. And my question is whether the Indianapolis offense can keep up, because if you don't keep up with Aaron Rodgers, at least put up enough points, you're not going to go anywhere in the game. I don't care how good your defense is. So if Indianapolis can find a way to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers, they'll probably have a chance. But if they don't get any pressure on Aaron Rodgers, then I think it's going to be a long day for the Indianapolis defense. And I don't think Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis offense will be able to keep up with them. So I like Indianapolis, though. I think they're gonna put pressure on Rodgers. Rodgers sort of folds whenever he faces pressure throughout his career, from what I've seen. I think that's gonna be Indianapolis' game plan. I like the Colts to win. Probably, I'm gonna go close. I'm gonna go 20-13. It's gonna be more of a defensive type of battle.
Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think this is a great matchup this weekend. It's going to be hotly contested. I think the Packers each and every year, because you got A-Rod at the helm, they're definitely one of the teams to beat. Although I like this Colts team, and I like Rivers and what he's done when he's come there. But I'm not quite sure they got enough firepower to beat the Packers. It's going to be close. I'll say Packers win at 30-27.
Man, I think, I don't know, guys. Looking back on this Colts, both of these teams, being the Colts and the Packers, had exceptional wins. No, okay, not the Packers, but the Colts. Looking at the Colts, they defeated the Tennessee Titans, who going into last week's bout, they were 5-2. Or 6-2, excuse me, fall to 6-3. Colts beat them 34-17, and in that game, Phillip Rivers 29 for 39 passing, 308 yards, 1 touchdown. It will be a battle of the QBs. I think it comes down to their performance. Going over to as I pull up Aaron Rodgers' stat line. Bear with me, folks. I'm very slow on this thing. So, as I roll over to Aaron Rodgers, 24 for 34 passing, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. It's just going to be a battle of QB play, guys. I think it's going to come down to which QB wants it more. And I never go against Aaron Rodgers. I can't go against Aaron Rodgers. I think even on the road, last week was as close to a quote-unquote trap game as you could get. Jake Luton at the start for the Jags. I don't think Aaron Rodgers repeats that same. He's not a repeat offender. I don't think he goes into this game and has the same outing he did. And I think the Packers take care of business and they win 28 to, let me put 17 on it. 28 to 17. I'll take the Packers in that one. Brandon, what's another game we got, man?
We got Kansas City Chiefs at the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday Night Football.
Oh, yeah. I love this. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. This game is going to be a fun one. I mean, the Raiders, you look at Kansas City, 8-1, that only loss coming against the Raiders. Back, I think it was week 7 or something around that nature. Raiders have already beaten the Chiefs. They're coming in. This game is in it's in Vegas too. So home field advantage for Las Vegas. It'll be the difference here is I think in the first game the Raiders sort of used their speed at wide receiver to their advantage and kind of gave Kansas City a little bit of taste of their own medicine with their receivers that they have in terms of they used Henry Ruggs. They lined him up. They used a lot of deep ball passing on the Chiefs defense, and I think this game will come down to whether or not the Chiefs can stop that on defense, because the Raiders defense seemed to have an answer for Patrick Mahomes the last time out. We'll see what kind of adjustments the Chiefs make. But in this game particularly, I think the Chiefs aren't going to get swept. I think the Chiefs will come out and have a much better game plan versus the Raiders. And I see you shaking your head, Keegan. But, I think the Chiefs will come out with a much better game plan against the Raiders. I'm going to go the Chiefs win by like a field goal. I'm going to go 30-27.
Scott, I hope you have a better answer than your son does.
Well, I'd start by saying I'm really looking forward to this weekend because this is another hell of a matchup, right? I mean, let's see if the Chiefs are going to take revenge on the Raiders, their only loss. And, we get to see – I got a brand new house with a brand new big 106-inch big screen TV that we're going to park on the new couch that we're going to be on watching this one.
Man.
And I tell you what, it's going to be a hell of a game again. I remember watching it the first go around. But again, I think the Chiefs, man, they got a good squad. Mahomes, I don't think he's going to go down twice. I am going to go with the Chiefs. And it's going to be high scoring. I'm going to say I say Chiefs win by 7 and 40 to 33.
All right, I got to clear a couple of things. First and foremost, the Las Vegas Raiders, last I checked, their entire defense pretty much isn't on the COVID list because there was a COVID case, there was exposure, and they were placed on the COVID list. So if they come out, and keep in mind, they would have missed practice, they would have missed their walkthrough. Assuming that they play on Sunday, which is looking to be the case, they will all be activated and ready to go on Sunday. I don't still see that being an issue for this Raiders defense. I still think that they have the formula. Pretty much you have to emulate, like you guys alluded to. Brandon, I think you alluded to this point. You have to emulate the same performance that you did against Kansas City the last time you faced off. You had the formula. You had the way to get to Patrick Mahomes. Repeat that. Do that again if you want to get this win. Kansas City, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas and stays with Vegas. I think they're the only team to sweep this year. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I did a no-no the last time I picked this game. I picked the Chiefs. That was a dirty sin of mine. I'm picking the Raiders to win this one, and I'm a Broncos fan, so I hate saying it, but I'll take them.
You can book it.
Give me the Las Vegas Raiders. They're going to win this one, and they win it the same fashion they did, 10+. I can't give you an exact score. I know it's 10+. Las Vegas Raiders stay perfect at home. There you go. There's my hot take. Is there one more?
We'll see.
One more game on there, or are we going to break here?
I think that's pretty much it.
All right. With that being said, on the other side of this break, we're going to be talking about the NBA draft and NBA free agency. We're going to be spitballing this one because we really didn't format this talk. So whatever says is said goes. So with that being said, when we come back, NBA free agency talk. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Breakfast of Champions here on KCOU 88.1 FM, student voice for Mizzou Athletics. Back here live on KCOU 88.1 FM, the student voice for Mizzou Athletics. Bring that music back in. What are we doing? There we go. Listening to the Breakfast of Champions here on KCOU, student voice for Mizzou Athletics. I said it again. Oh my gosh, it's an early morning. Keegan Hartman here on the sound table, whatever you want to call it, soundboard. And on the Zoom call with me, Mr. Brandon Anthony. Brandon, how's your Friday morning going, my friend?
It's going real good. Got a nice view of the lake out in front.
Just
man.
Flexing your muscles, huh? All right. Well, hey, I got to give a shout out to Scott Anthony. Your dad was phenomenal the last segment. Great stuff. I love the conversations that we had. Always a pleasure talking and catching up with him and having him on the show, discussing football. Fun stuff, man. I love it.
Fun stuff.
Indeed. So the party doesn't stop, ladies and gentlemen. We've still got stuff to get into, as today should be a holiday, as should any free agency period be a holiday, with the exception of maybe the NHL and the MLB. Sorry, NHL and MLB fans, but I just don't keep up. NBA free agency starts today. I'm going to have so many people hating on me for that. Kicks off 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Central Time. That is officially the start time for when NBA free agents will be able to find their new home. And to start that headline, we have a bit of breaking news, not necessarily breaking news. It broke last night, but it's important to note that a guy of this caliber is hitting the market and is now arguably the biggest free agent to hit the market. The guy I'm alluding to is Mr. Gordon Hayward, who is in his 10th season, at least entering his 10th season. He has spent his previous 3 seasons with the Boston Celtics, signed with them in 2017 from the Utah Jazz. He's opted out. He's opted out,
fellas, because it's coming up on Friday night.
Goodness,
and it's
he is opted
2020 like any other year in many ways.
He is opted out of a $34 million contract. My goodness, opted out of a $34 million contract for the upcoming 4th year, and is now hitting the market. He is the biggest free agent to hit the market. Brandon, what do we think about this news? Because here's the thing. Gordon has been struggling with injury. He has been faced with injury, been plagued with injury. It hasn't gone accordingly well with Boston. What do you think of this? What do you make of it? And what do you see happening with Gordon Hayward in the future?
For me with Gordon Hayward, yeah, you said injury has been plaguing sort of his time with Boston. I think this is a good thing for him though. Enter free agency, get a fresh start somewhere else. Kind of revitalize his career a little bit. There's been reports that a possible destination such as the New York Knicks, Indiana Pacers. I think he needs to go somewhere where there's already stars there, where he can kind of be a complementary type of player towards whoever's there. So like a team such as Like a team like, I don't think Brooklyn or any of the big dogs can afford him, but a team that has kind of like how he had in Boston, where he had Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, kind of need another team like that to take him in. So he's playing himself, but also has other guys around him to help him out. I think the worst thing for him will be to go to a place where there's no one there and it's just him, and knowing his injury problems that can place a toll on his career even more. But I think a fresh start is very important for him going forward.
I'm spitballing here. Now I'm not even going to spitball because I'm going to look like a fool. All right. Let's just get into the fact that Gordon Hayward is pretty much the top of the chart right now. But looking down the list, you have names like Fred VanVleet. Bradley Beal is up for discussion. I mean, look for names on the move. Giannis hasn't even come out to say if he's going to sign his extension, even though the Milwaukee Bucks have been doing everything to stand out and say, hey, look, dude, we get it. You want a max deal. We're going to do everything we can to move around our chips and make sure that we get you the pieces necessary. Some other key things that have been happening. Kelly Oubre was originally dealt to the Oklahoma City Thunder, but got traded since then to the Golden State Warriors. So many pieces, dude. So much news to catch up on. I don't know. Let me start here and we'll make our way through. What do you think? What are you watching for coming into this NBA free agency? Because I feel like it's going to get chaotic over the next 24 to 48 hours. Just anything and everything. What are you watching for as this progresses and gets more intense?
I bet. I'm really looking forward. You mentioned Giannis Antetokounmpo's name. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do. Most likely, he's probably the biggest name free agent out there at this point. And I think if he chooses to stay in Milwaukee, then you have him in Milwaukee. Milwaukee will be another front runner and contender in the Eastern Conference. However, if Giannis decides to go and jump into the Western Conference or another team in the East, it'll really shape up the 2021 NBA season in terms of where he decides to go. We've seen this before with Kevin Durant, with LeBron. Whatever team they choose kind of shapes up, where everyone else decides to go, and sort of shapes up the next season in terms of who's going to be the high-powered team. So I think Giannis, I'm most intrigued to see where he goes, because I feel like wherever he goes, it's gonna lead to sort of a chain reaction with a lot of guys wanting to go to that location, and it's just going to lead to just a different landscape in the NBA going forward if he decides to leave Milwaukee. I don't know.
I think one thing I'm going to watch for, actually a couple of things. First and foremost, I want to see what Golden State does in light of Klay Thompson's injury. That being so significant, man. He's been removed from the game since, Game 6 of against the Toronto Raptors in the 2019 NBA Finals. It's been that long since that man has been on a court, and it's because of a couple of Achilles injuries. And it's horrible to watch. You don't even know the fate of what Golden State is going to be like. This is, mind you, the best backcourt in the NBA. It's no argument. I mean, you might have a slight argument with the Trailblazers being CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard, but otherwise, there is nobody across the slate. The Splash Brothers reign best backcourt. So when you don't have one on the court, it calls for a bad formula. They're expecting Andrew Wiggins to step up and take that spot for Klay, but I think that they need to go after another free agent. Be able to. They already signed Kelly Oubre. They bring Kelly Oubre in. Could I see them trading for a person or for a player like DeMar DeRozan? Potentially, I could see that happening. I don't know. How do the good get greater? But right now, I feel like they're taking, every time they try to take one step forward, Golden State Warriors are taking 2 steps backwards, unfortunately. So the Golden State Warriors are going to be something to watch. Looking at the Lakers, I stick out west. I look at the Lakers. I think one thing that you have to get resolved quickly is Anthony Davis's deal. He opted out, obviously. The figure that they agree upon, that's going to be the golden question. What do they agree upon as far as compensation? That's the biggest question mark out west for the Lakers.
I did see with that, Keegan, that his new contract is going to take some time, and that they this is according to Adrian Wojnarowski, NBA insider, and Anthony Davis plans to wait minimally through Thanksgiving to consider the structure of his new max deal with the Lakers. So that should be it should take some time, essentially.
I think it's sort of like what LeBron does. He used to do the 1+1, the bridge contracts is what they call them. So like you would take 1 year and then you'd opt out. You'd wait for everybody to kind of resign, restructure their deals. And basically you would come back on the back end and restructure your deal. I don't expect Anthony Davis to go anywhere. I don't think anybody does. He's going to get his deal. It's just a matter of what they want to do. And they've got so many moving pieces. Rajon Rondo's going to be gone. Danny Green's already gone. He was shipped to originally OKC, but now he's been shipped to Philly. And Philly traded back Al Horford to OKC. OKC, you are the most confusing jigsaw puzzle like out there. Like you have so many picks and you've been throwing guys left and right. It's truly crazy to watch. But that's a different story. LA has done a lot of moves, released Quinn Cook. They're really trying to do what they can to bring back AD, and I think that's their main focus, and really that should be their main focus. I don't see them bringing back or doing much addition or adding to what they have. I think what they have is already a championship caliber team. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, for sure. I think they already have a championship team, and it's just about maintaining the pieces they got for the future. And like you said, the Anthony Davis deal is going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Now let's talk NBA draft. And I wanted to get this to start everything off because it would make most sense because it happened on Wednesday and the free agency happens today. But now we have time. What do you think about this with the first overall pick? The Minnesota Timberwolves select Anthony Edwards out of Georgia. This is the first time, folks, ever that two SEC products have been taken number one overall of two major sports, being the NFL and the NBA. Joe Burrow taken number one overall by the Bengals, and Edwards taken over number one overall by the Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards is a hooper, man. What do you think about this pickup? I think he's still there.
I like it. I mean, I think he's going to be a stud and is a hooper. Did you hear me for a sec?
I got you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I like the move. I think he's going to be he's going to be a stud. And my biggest question though is, I mean, we've seen this before with the Timberwolves where they bring in someone coming out of the draft and it kind of takes them long to get developed. AKA Andrew Wiggins. You mentioned Andrew Wiggins stepping up in Golden State. Golden State, I wouldn't count on Andrew Wiggins to step up. He's more of a showcase behind Stephen Curry. I don't think he's going to rise to the occasion that you want him to rise in, so I wouldn't count on that. But Anthony Edwards, I like the move. I think he was obviously the best player available at that point in the draft, number one overall. So the pick makes sense. I just wonder how he's going to develop with Minnesota is my question, and how he'll be good. He'll have D'Angelo Russell in the backcourt with him. And he'll have Karl Anthony Towns obviously as well. So he's got two all-star caliber players coming into Minnesota with him. It's just a matter of his development personally and how he'll look. What kind of season he'll have his rookie year.
Yeah, obviously we're SEC boys, but I haven't seen Edwards enough, and shame on me. I haven't kept up with the scene. I haven't been able to watch the Georgia product in action but once, and when I did, he scored 4 points his last outing, I believe was January 28th against Missouri. We were at that game cracking jokes, and Anthony Edwards went off. They ultimately lost that game, but Anthony Edwards was their scoring offense from what I could watch. Anthony Edwards was their leading scorer and had a great outing. He averaged, I want to say 20 points, roughly 20 points a game last year. Maybe 19, I think. But he was shooting 29% from beyond the arc. And in the paint, he was 40%. His free throw shooting percentage was at 70%. I think the three-point ball, that's where, you look at guys like LaMelo. He's got that. I mean, look, if you went LaMelo, I don't know how that would fare. I think this is a good pick. Pick up, I should say. Pick up, whatever you want to call it. 6'5", 230 pounds. He's built. He's got the frame. I think he meshes well with D'Lo and Cat. I think this works.
I would agree with that. I think what the Timberwolves sort of needed also is a guy. What they've been lacking for years is a guy who is a shooter, honestly. And I think Anthony Edwards is that shooter for them to have. He was in college, at least from what I've seen. I think he's that shooter. So I like the pick in that sense because I feel like LaMelo, obviously, him and D'Lo would probably be fighting over, who gets the ball. They're more of the point guard type. I feel like I don't know how that would fare in the backcourt in terms of him getting along with D'Angelo Russell. So I like the pick. I think it brings an aspect of the Timberwolves that we haven't seen forever in Minnesota.
Are they a playoff team this year, or you got to watch them a couple of games to get that idea?
I wouldn't go that far. Let's watch them a couple games.
Watch them a couple games. Make sure they're. I mean, as far as the quote unquote cusp goes, they've been pretty much near the cusp of the playoff mark. They've just. I mean, last year probably being that caveat. When was the last time they were in the playoffs? If I can't even remember.
The last time they were in the playoffs was 2018 when they had
2 years ago.
Jimmy Butler.
I'll be dang, the Jimmy Butler era, and then the
Jimmy Butler did. If he did one thing in Minnesota, he did lead us to our first playoff appearance in 12 years. So I'll thank him for that. Everything else, I don't thank him for. So there's that. 2018 was the last time we were in the postseason. We weren't close the last couple of years without Jimmy. So yeah, let's hoping Anthony Edwards does a trick.
So real quick, as we're closing in on maybe roughly 3 minutes of airtime to go here, do you have like a bold prediction for this free agency period as it vamps up throughout the duration of this weekend? Is there any shocking signing that you look forward to seeing?
I really think Giannis is going to leave and go somewhere.
Heyo.
Wherever he's going to go, I don't know. I know Miami has been looked at as a preferred destination. I can see that coming off of the season Miami had last year. That's who I can see might be the biggest surprise, honestly. Just because he's kind of the biggest name floating out there still, who hasn't said he's going to test free agency yet, but I'm sure he will as time comes by. What about you?
You and I are in the same boat, man. I think that Giannis, I said this to everybody, and everybody, I mean, like all my good friends. I said, go back to 2018, 17, the last time that LeBron said, hey, I'm leaving Cleveland. It would have been 2018. I'm right. No, 2017, excuse me. He said to his folks, I need to take a break. We're going to take a vacation. Everybody pack your bags. We're taking a vacation. After that Cavaliers last finals outing with the Cavaliers, took a vacation. And then, in July, he makes the announcement, hey, I'm going to LA. All it took was a vacation, man. And technically, Giannis isn't on a vacation. He's back home in Greece, visiting with his family. But I think after these long vacations, even with Milwaukee making the moves that they're making, of course, they traded for Drew Holiday from the Pelicans, one of the key names. I still think Giannis is out the door. I think Giannis is going to want to go to a team that has cemented playoff resume. Milwaukee doesn't have that. They don't have
last couple years they have, but yeah,
playoff resume. But I mean significant. I've made it to the finals in the Eastern Conference. Even if you want to go out west, and that could very well be the case. Maybe he wants to go to a more competitive conference. So the Western Conference isn't ruled out, but I still see Miami just standing there like, take the bait. Take the bait. You want to come here, come to the dark side. We got you. We got a good coach. We got Jimmy Butler. That's all you need. Tyler Hero, he's a bucket. Bam Adebayo, come on, man. Come on. So I think Miami. I think Miami is a good pick for him, or a good landing spot for him. But man, he's got a lot of thinking to do. Don't expect him to come out of the gate and make his decision. I think it's going to take some time. He's a big star. Rightfully so. Should take time. That's my thinking.
I certainly agree with that. I think another team to look out for also is Golden State too.
Ew.
But we'll see what happens there.
Well, with that being said, man, look, have a happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. I mean, dude, I'm going to get stuffed up next week. Oh my gosh, I'm ready for the naps. The football and the naps. Oof.
Football and the naps and all the food, of course. It's a good time of the year for sure.
Oh,
Here.
I am literally mouth-watering cranberry sauce, stuffing, the turkey. I can smell the kitchen now, man. My senses are tingling. With that being said, you've been listening to the Breakfast of Champions. I think I need lunch. He is
Brandon Anthony.
I'm Keegan Hartman. Thank you for listening yet again, and I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Safe one. Love you guys. Peace and love. God bless.